All right, folks. Thanks for your patience. Welcome everyone to the 2024 Tilton Northfield Fire District Annual Meeting. For the record, it is 7:05 p.m. on March 18th, 2024. We are at Winnisquam Regional High School in Tilton, New Hampshire, for the purpose of conducting the Fire District Annual Meeting. My name is Kent Finnemore. I'm the moderator for the Tilton Northfield Fire District. I'd like to introduce the Fire Chief, Mike Sitar, and ask him to lead the salute to the flag of the United States of America.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike. All right, the annual meeting is a time to conduct the business at hand, also a time to celebrate the efforts of our fire department. Probably some of them are here tonight, very professional group, and when you need them, they show up, and they are the best. Applause for those folks. All right, your fire commissioners are Chairman Paul Ocean. Is he still chairman? Yeah, okay, thanks. Eric Pyra and Tim Sattler. The treasurer for the fire district is Tim Pearson. The clerk for the fire district is Gene Sams. Fire district budget committee includes Jason Wright from Tilton, Jane Alden from Tilton, Catherine Dawson from Tilton, Paul Blaisdell from Northfield, Charles Broughton from Northfield, Scott Lewandowski from Northfield, and the commissioner's rep on the budget committee is Eric Pyra. Thanks very much to the budget committee this year for their service to the fire district. Much appreciated. At this time, I'll introduce my assistant moderators for this evening, Matt Gilman from Tilton and Stephanie Giovannucci from Northfield. All right, process. If you would, please put your cell phones on silent. I'll be the first. There we go. As the articles are introduced, I'll ask for a motion and a second. Once we record that, I'll recognize someone to speak to the article so that we can get a brief explanation before we open for the testimony. All testimony questions must be directed through the moderator. Please present your testimony with courtesy and respect for the entire assembly. If it gets personal and meeting names and just poorly veiled references to people by title, these are issues that are covered under New Hampshire RSA 40:8. If there is disorderly behavior, then we have to address that. That has never been the case. I'd like to think that won't be the case ever. Please understand, too, that when you speak, even when you're asking a question, you are providing testimony, and generally speaking, someone will try to answer the question, but no one is obligated to respond. Sometimes nobody knows the answer to a question or whatever, but within a reasonable level of decorum, you can provide whatever testimony you want, but no one has to respond to someone else's testimony. It is a violation of state law for anyone to speak at the meeting without being recognized by the moderator. For example, when another person has the floor. This is New Hampshire RSA 40:7, so it is a law. Just please try to remember that the right to express ourselves and to vote relies on conducting government in a civil manner. I'm going to ask that you limit testimony to around 3 minutes. We do have 13 articles on the warrant tonight. I'm not suggesting that we won't take whatever time is necessary here, but ideally we'll try to keep things moving the best we can. As moderator, I'll try to use my best judgment. If it's obvious there's a point to your testimony, we will be courteous. However, if things are dragging a bit, we might ask you to make your point and shout. You do need to use the microphones. There's microphones here and there. That's because we need to record the proceedings and create a public record. If you have a follow-up question, please request such from the moderator and direct it through the moderator before proceeding. It's not appropriate to have a conversation back and forth. For example, someone who's trying to answer a question. All right, I try to stay away, and talking over each other is a problem because we need, as I said, to record the proceedings. Sometimes it's very difficult to hear someone's name, and we have to record names of the people that provide testimony. Sometimes it's hard to hear even after we've asked a second time, and I apologize for that up front. I may need to ask one of my assistant moderators to visit and get your name for the record after the fact. No disrespect, it's just sometimes hard to hear well enough to get it right. It is my intent, to the extent possible, to hear from those who have yet to speak on an issue before we hear again from those who have already spoken. To me, this is very important. Motions to call the question must be made by a voter who has been recognized by the moderator to speak. I will not respond to a motion shouted from the assembly. The moderator will not accept motions to call a question or table an article if it follows testimony on the part of the person making the motion. In other words, you can't have your say and then cut off everybody else from speaking. Now, if in my judgment there has not been sufficient debate on a particular issue, I won't accept motion to call a question. Motions to call the question are not debatable, and it must be approved by a 2/3 majority. Anything that cuts off debate needs a 2/3 majority. If I have any doubts about a voice vote, we'll count the votes. And when I call for a count, everyone has a voter card. I'll ask you to hold those up, and I'll have my assistant moderators count for both yea and nay. Any decision of the moderator can be challenged by a vote of the assembly and overturned by a simple majority. And so, for example, if I think we haven't heard enough testimony and somebody calls the vote and I say I don't accept the call for the vote, that can be overturned by a motion from someone in the assembly and by a simple majority. Motions to restrict reconsideration of a vote under RSA 40:10, more commonly referred to as protecting your vote, and I will accept that reference for the intention to restrict reconsideration. I prefer such a motion be made prior to moving on to the next article. That's not necessary as I read the statute. It can be done at any time during the meeting, but the cleanest way is to do it before we move on to the next article. There is a designated space for non-voters, I believe, up here to my right. Is anybody who is not a resident of the district and voting tonight, can you please just raise your hands? Get a sense. All right. Yeah, we got kind of a mix there. Yeah, I would really prefer that folks who aren't voting just sort of be together so that it's easy for my assistant moderators. Yeah, it would be great. Yeah, thank you. I should have made that statement probably up front. I'm sorry about that. So I just want to make it very clear to the assistant moderators what to count and not to count, and further to make sure that during a voice vote we don't get any votes coming from that section. All right, so Matt, you can see that pretty clearly. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, folks. So it's especially important for you folks that are residents to, if we go to a ballot vote, please just maintain your seats. Don't mill around. Don't show any even inkling that there's a mix or trying to influence folks that are here at the meeting. So secret ballots, you can call for a secret ballot. We need that in writing from at least 5 people who are present here. It needs to be signed. So if somebody is going to make a motion or request a secret ballot on a vote, it has to be by 5 people who are here, and in writing it's signed by all 5 people. I don't know if there's any members of the media here. I haven't fished them out, but if there are, welcome to our meeting. We understand you have a very important job to do, and we respect that at times you may need to clarify a name or something to that effect, but just try to please avoid even the appearance of participating in the meeting. Generally speaking, we're trying to vote initially by voice vote. If we have a call for a show of hands, a show of cards, I'll have the appointed assistants to the moderator help count the votes. Motions to amend an article must be made by a registered voter in the district, must be in writing, must be signed by the voter making the motion. The motion must also be very clear as to how the article will be amended. I can't tell you how to write the amendment, but sometimes it's best just to rewrite the entire article. If, in my opinion, there is any possibility that an amendment could be alternatively interpreted, I won't accept that motion. That doesn't mean we won't get to where you want to go with the amendment, but it just might take more time. Being a little thoughtful up front can help. All right, any questions process-wise? Seeing none. Each article on the warrant is read in its entirety before being considered. Each article as amended is read by the moderator before the vote. Well, I say that, all right. If it's been a reasonable amount of time between the time it was read and well, there's been a lot of discussion, I'll read the article again before we vote. If there's not much discussion, I will just say as read, unless somebody else asks me to read the warrant now. Reading the warrant, the entire warrant at the start of a meeting is something that's become less of an expectation. If anyone here would like me to read the entire warrant before we start, I will. But if you want to save about 20 minutes, we can now read the entire warrant up front. Does anybody want me to do that? No. Oh, goody. All right. So, that said, we will proceed with the warrants. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. All right. Before we get to the warrant, we have a brief presentation from our Board of Commissioners. Tim Sattler, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening. Thank you all for attending. My name is Tim Sattler. There's 3 handouts tonight. There's the warrant, there's the budget, and then there's a copy of the slideshow. We're not going to go through the entire slideshow, but I wanted you to have all the information. The slides were all generated based on questions that we've been asked in the past year or years past. But we will go through the first few just to give you a little update and some highlights of the year. So as you can see, we hired a few new people. We've got a couple new call members. We've got a couple full-time firefighters. Hired a new administrative assistant, and we've had some great training and certificates earned, and that goes on to the next page there, as you can see. So the guys are very well trained, and they continue to keep their training up and to do more training. I want to give you an update on the building committee. We have an active building committee that is continuing to meet. We've hired a contractor to help us with the design. We have done some geological surveys, and we're working on the space needs, and that continues to be developed. The most important item on the slide, though, is that we came up with a survey that we're sending out to all the residents that's almost finalized. You should see that probably in the next 6 to 8 weeks. That'll be coming in the mail, so keep an eye out for that. We're looking for some input. All right, some trending. Just wanted to show you 25 years worth of call trending. Last year we responded to 2,100 plus calls, and we performed 564 inspections. 70% of the calls are EMS. That number continues to grow with an aging population, as you would expect. 65% of the EMS calls are for those 50 years and older, and that's sort of a trend as the population ages. Those in the older years need more support. Incident by days of the week, pretty even there. Incident by time of day, as you would expect during the day, the incidents go up. The gray bars are the total incidents. The red bars are the simultaneous or second incidents. And as you can see, they follow the same graph there. I particularly like this slide. This breaks down the calls in the two towns by region. The yellow region of 581 is the village district downtown, and then we have the east and west side, and then broken by Tilton and Northfield. So what you're seeing on this graph is the calls to the village continue to go down, and the calls outside of the village continue to go up. Last year, the call breakdown was nearly 60, Tilton 44, Northfield. Average response time. With the addition of the fourth firefighter on each crew that we added 3 years ago with the SAFER grant, the response time for the second call has been cut in half, therefore improving the response time. And as you can see on the slide, 45% of those calls are simultaneous. Mutual aid, you can see we still rely on mutual aid. This year we gave, or last year we gave a few more than we received. This slide we could talk about for a long time, but this is our number of call firefighters over the last 25 years. This is a case where we have changes in lifestyles and family commitments, more people working outside of the community, the amount of time it takes for a call firefighter to get through all their training and certifications make it very difficult to roll somebody new in and also to retain the firefighters that we have. We typically get asked about fund balances, so we printed that out for you. The unassigned fund balance, as you can see, is $337,080. Tonight we're going to propose transferring $65,000 of that out, which will leave us with a balance that you're seeing green. The policy likes us to have 16.6% in our fund balance, so you can see that we're short there by $262,000. Moving to the apparatus and equipment fund, we're just over $1 million there. Last year we generated $572,668 on a patient count of 1,056 transports. And the other funds you see there are listed. The one I want to point out is the hydrants and cisterns. We do have a cistern project that we're trying to deploy. And you see it's going to be somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000. And we've got a dry hydrant that we're trying to deploy, and we anticipate that it'll be $9,000. So we still have a fair amount of money in that account. And last year, you may remember, we added money to that account, but this year we will not be asking to add any money to that account. This is the operating budget. So if you've already looked through the budget on page 7, you'll see last year the operating budget was $3,020,238. This year, the proposed budget is $3,690,690, and we've given you the difference there, $670,000. And the budget increase is primarily due to these four factors in that order. So the SAFER grant, which paid for the 4 additional firefighters for the last 3 years, has expired. We have wages, benefits, and insurance, which is the bulk of our budget. The pressurized hydrants are back, and they're in the budget. And then we've got building maintenance and repairs. So to give you a breakdown of the SAFER grant, the SAFER grant was fully funded, and the full cost this year for those 4 firefighters, including all benefits, is $442,127. The SAFER grant ended in February, so the actual cost to the district is $392,000. New firefighters cost between $95,000 and $116,000 to the district, depending on their level of health insurance plan, whether they're single, family, etc. And then when we have to replace a firefighter, there's a lot of upfront cost in training, uniforms, equipment, and whatnot. And it's typically about $55,000 invested when we hire a new firefighter. It takes an average of 3.5 months to get a firefighter from the time we advertise the opening to the time we have them on board, and then it takes more than a year for them to be fully effective in their job. So this was the cost last year to the taxpayers. Last year, if we didn't have the grant, those firefighters would have cost 27 cents on your tax rate in Tilton and 18 cents on your tax rate in Northfield. So you can see how that multiplies out. I know there's a lot of numbers here. The only ones you need to be concerned with is the yellow one at the top left. That's our starting pay for a firefighter who is already a firefighter 2 with advanced EMS certificate, $21.10 an hour. So we did this wage study with surrounding towns, and the average is the green number towards the bottom right or left. $24.99 is the average. So in an attempt to bring our starting pay into the average, we're proposing that $25 an hour starting pay, and then if you carry that all the way over, the total first year compensation, you can see last year was $78,000 and this year's $91,000. The average down at the bottom right in green of all the towns is $94,000. So we're still a little bit below that. But one of the things we noted was a lot of other towns are also considering increasing their wages. So us going to average this year, we likely won't be at average next year. So here's sort of a summary of that slide. Sorry, I did that in the last slide. You can keep going. All right, the water district. So for most of us, we know we've been in litigation with the water department for the last 3+ years. We have a mitigated court order to resolve that. The highlights I've listed here, they were looking for $761,000 for 2021, 22, and 23. We agreed to pay $400,000. This year, the fee for pressurized hydrants is $165,302. If you jump down the bullet point, the water district went out and had a couple rate studies done that they paid for and the PUC approved. And the current tariff rates for fire hydrants totals $228,478. So we've got them locked in at the $165,302 plus 75% of whatever annual rate increase they have, which for next year, 2025, is going to be 8%. So we're going to pay 6% increase. Years after that, we will have to wait and tell. But that guarantee is in place until 2032. All right, the rest of the slides are for your information. Some farther down will be relevant to the ambulance. That's Article 5. But I wanted you to have all that information so you can refer back to it during the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thanks, Tim. All right, a couple of other introductions. I failed to introduce Paul Fitzgerald. He's on the end there. He's not a registered voter in the district. He is the fire district's attorney. He's with us tonight. Also, running sound for us is Kirk Young. He is from Tilton. I also want to say thanks very, very much to the supervisors of the checklist. They're very important in this process. We can't work without them. All right, Article 1. I'm sporting Gene Sam's reading glasses here. I can't see in the low light. Just got my 6th decade award winner. All right. Article 1, to choose all necessary Tilton Northfield Fire District officers for the ensuing year as presented on the ballot prepared for the same. Actual voting to be by official ballot on Tuesday, March 12, 2024 at the annual town voting sessions in Tilton and Northfield at their respective polling places and times. The results of elections this year for the fire district: Jason Wright won election for fire commissioner. The district clerk was Gene Sands. District treasurer was Tim Pearson. Moderator, the winner by write-in votes was yours truly. However, I have not accepted there will be a vacancy on that, and the commissioners will have to address that moving forward. Article 2, to accept the reports of the treasurer and the fire commissioners and pass any vote relating thereto. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Arlo. Is there a second? Second? Thank you. All right, any discussion on Article 2? Seeing none, those in favor of Article 2 as read, please signify by voting. Sorry, Kevin.
Let me get up like that.
I wasn't expecting that.
Is this on?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Good evening. I'm wondering, this Article 2 spins around us every year. I'd like to know exactly what it means, and what would any vote relating thereto be? Where are these reports? We haven't seen them. We don't know if they exist. Is this something like Nancy Pelosi saying we have to pass it to see what's in it? I'm really not convinced there's anything for us to vote on. There's nothing before us. And if that is the case, the commission should pass this over, or it should be tabled. There's no, show me something. What am I voting on?
Thank you, Kevin. Further discussion on Article 2. All right, seeing none, are you ready for the vote? All right, those in favor of Article 2 as read, please signify so by saying aye. Those opposed, nay? Nay. Okay, we're going to go to a vote that was not convincing in either direction. Matt, please. Stephanie? Okay, those in favor of Article 2, please hold up your voter cards now. Okay, thank you. Those opposed to Article 2 as read, please hold up your cards now. Okay, the results, thank you folks. Results of counting votes. Those in favor of Article 2, 38, and those opposed, 40. Article 2 fails, and I so declare. Article 3, see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee's recommended sum of, sorry, what's up? One or two?
Well, one is.
Right, okay, I'm sorry.
Was that two?
That was two, yes.
What was that?
Sorry, I wasn't looking. All right, so the motion was to protect the vote on Article 2. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Kevin. Okay, discussion on that motion. Seeing none, we'll try a voice vote. Those in favor of protecting your vote on Article 2, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay?
Nay.
The ayes have it, I so declare. It's very low light here in the room just now. I'm having a hard time seeing. Right. Article 3, see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the Budget Committee's recommended sum of $3,690,960 for general municipal operations. Excuse me. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners for $3,555,019. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Moderator, move the floor, question to the floor for discussion.
Okay, is there a second? Thank you, Jerry. All right. Thank you, folks. All right. Sorry, Eric, could you speak to Article 3, please?
Yep, this is the result of the Budget Committee and the Board of Commissioners. The major difference between the two amounts was that after much discussion, as was previously discussed, was the increase in the wages for the career firefighters. Another large expense, I just lost my place in there, was the insurance, which went up about 16%. And of course the addition of the pressurized hydrants back into the budget.
Thank you, Eric. Further discussion on Article 3. Arlen.
Arlen Brayton, Northfield. I'm just wondering, this is confusing the way it's written. If we pass this article, we'd be voting on the $3,690,000 or on the $3,555,000. Is the $3,555,000, would that be an amendment to this article?
Right, so my understanding is we are voting on the Budget Committee's proposed budget, which is $3,690,960. The statement was made by the Board of Commissioners that they had a lower budget of their own. It is not an amendment. Right now you're voting on $3,690,960.
So the higher amount.
Yes, thank you. Further discussion on Article 3. Yes, ma'am.
Northfield. I've noticed that salaries, and I know we got a thing about the increases that you want to do. I want to understand how many people are we talking about? What's the current employee number in the fire department, and how many employees are we intending to hire this year and when?
Thank you. Mike, please.
So the current number of full-time employees is 19. We have one part-time assistant administrator, and we have 10 part-time call firefighters. 18 of the full-time employees are firefighters, including myself.
And how many are we planning to hire?
We're not planning to hire any more than what we have right now.
Okay. And in the budget, there is a medical line where you talk about 33 employees and 5 new employees. Where did those numbers come from?
So during the course of the year, we do look to hire call firefighters, part-time employees, and when we hire them, we have to put them through a physical process to make sure that they can perform firefighting duties.
So you'd only be hiring 5 then in that case.
Well, I would hope to hire 5, yes.
Are they in the budget?
There's, in the call firefighter line item, they were included into that. But call firefighters are part-time employees, and they show up when they can. It's not, they don't have assigned hours. It's, if a call comes in, that's when they can come to work.
And they don't get benefits?
No, they do not get benefits.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mark, please.
Good evening. I'm Mark Hubble, Northfield. One of your slides showed an increase of, I couldn't quite catch it, 500 and something thousand, but the actual increase is 799,000, according to your paperwork that we received at your last meeting. You're requesting a budget of $3,690,960 compared to last year's $2,891,243. So that's a $799,000 increase. Is that correct?
Somebody respond to that, please. Tim?
I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me, but I'm assuming you're looking at the numbers. So this is the number I showed you, that 600 and whatever $1,000. That was the budget increase. Now, the amount to be raised by taxes is higher than that because we don't have the SAFER grant money coming in. So if you're looking at a line item in the budget,
Looking at total general operating revenues for the 2024 itemized proposed budget. We are actually, this article right now that we are voting on is for $3,690,960, correct?
correct.
And according to your paperwork from last year, your 2023 actual was $2,891,243. That is a difference of $799,717.
So can you give me a line item on the budget that you're looking at?
Page your total general operating revenues for 2024 and 2023 actually. Page 1 of 14.
Okay. So you're looking at the full budget, the 14-page one.
Correct.
And you're using the number of $2,891,243.
Correct.
I'm not sure I can answer that question without doing some research. We went back
That's
through.
fine. It's still, it's a big increase, so that's it. It actually leads me into the next one.
Mark, just 1 second. So we're getting a little too much of the back and forth, which is what we tried to control. So if you'd like to follow up, please do.
That's okay. I did a comparison for the town of Belmont. Just so you know, their calls for service, 1,879. And it's a difference of about 221 calls for service. Their makeup is about the same. They have 2 firefighters. Well, they have 1 firefighter less and 1 less office personnel. So they have 18 people. To Tilton Northfield's 20. Their budget, $2,082,117 compared to what you're requesting now, $3,690,960. We have nearly the same size department, pretty close to the call volume, and you're wanting $1,608,000 more. So same number of people, pretty close to the same workload, a lot less money. That's mine. Can somebody answer why we're so much more?
Jason, please.
That's a good question, and I would ask that you do a deeper dive into the tenure of all the folks in Belmont. If you have a younger department, less time on the books across the board, if their total payroll expenses less, if everybody's making $20 or $22. I mean, we have one of the things that we enjoy is the longevity and the tenure of some of the department. So we're trying to maintain that, or also as part of the wage increase for the new hires. So I guess to do a complete study, you have to go and find out what's everybody's time on the job on those 18 people versus the tenure here. Because I think payroll is a driving factor in both of those.
Right, thank you. No doubt there would be some difference, but I don't think it'd be 1.6 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Chuck, please.
Chuck Mitchell. So I guess what I'm confused about is the difference of the two amounts of money in the 6,670,000 or 690 versus the 6,555,000. Now, apparently it was chosen to put that 6,555,000 in there as a recommendation from the commissioners. And I guess I'd like to hear from the commissioners why there's a difference, because that's about $145,000 difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Tim, please.
The commissioners met with the chief and went over the pay scale, and we came up with a amount that we wanted to recommend. And when that was given to the budget committee and they reviewed the pay analysis, they came up with a slightly higher amount. And so the budget that you're seeing is from the budget committee, and that difference in the two numbers is the amount of the difference between what the commissioners recommended and what the budget committee recommended.
Thank you, Tim. Jason, please.
Okay, it's not a comment, it's a question. When we had the public hearing over at the Tilton PD, the budget committee met and voted to put the hydrant money back in. Did the commissioners have a meeting after that meeting? Because the commissioners' budget did not have that 140-some-odd thousand for the hydrants. Did you guys go back in and revote your number? Because I don't think you did. I don't remember if you did. So I guess that's the bigger swing is the hydrant thing. The budget committee had a meeting and voted to put the hydrant money back into the operating budget. Not sure where it ended with the commissioners.
Any questions? Well, seeing none. All right, Kevin, please.
The numbers we're talking, I think, in round numbers, are 22% increase. We've been told that that is in fact because the state grant expired. The grant covered 4 people. Originally thought it was 3, but I stand corrected at 4. It would have been really nice, as we've all known since a meeting at Park Street Station where the commissioners voted to take that grant. We've all known when it was going to end. And I think there was a committee put together designed to find another way to pay for this. And I'm guessing that didn't come to fruition, because here we are, as predicted, at this time. And it's on the back of the taxpayers. There really should have been some feeling of the public, a hearing, a meeting. What do you think? Let me know. Much like we're doing a building committee. They're going to put out a survey. What do you people think? But instead, we tuck it in the budget and hope for the best. That's not the way to, what is that? Make friends and most people, whatever that saying is. I have trouble with 20+%. I get it. We live it. Everything costs, everything. You can't buy anything now for what you used to. Nobody works for what they used to. But there's got to become a point in time where we have to take a step back and give the taxpayers an opportunity to breathe. I just not prepared to swallow that kind of increase. So, in Kevin Walton fashion, I have amended.
It's good. Yeah. Are you proposing to replace the entire? Interesting.
By the way, would result in about a little over 5%.
Okay, so what Kevin is proposing is see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,179,650 for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. We are replacing the language in the current Article 3 with that I just read. It is signed by Kevin. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Arlo. Okay, discussion on this amendment. Oh, sorry, Jason. Thank you, Kevin.
It's not on the amendment, it's on previous testimony because I didn't get to get in line before the amendment came. But in rebuttal to Mr. Walton's comment that nobody did anything regarding the Safer Grant preparation, there was a committee formed.
I hear your point of order.
It's testimony based on his testimony.
If you're headed towards, is your testimony on the amendment? It is.
It's on the testimony that was previously offered at that microphone by that gentleman that also presented an amendment during that testimony.
All right, I'll accept it.
Okay. To say that nobody did anything, I was not on the Safer Grant Committee, but if anybody in this room was, I encourage you to speak about it. I think there were changes made to the apparatus and equipment fund to not just buy equipment, but also to pay for maintenance and inspections and repairs to said equipment maintenance, to pull those lines out of the operating budget. I know that's not a $300,000 or a $400,000 problem, but I know that a committee was formed by people in this room, and they did try to get through some solutions to get some of the things out of the operating budget and into the apparatus and equipment fund. So that did change over the last 3 years. So don't say nothing changed. Things did change. It's not a lot. Now, to say that there was a 22% increase in the budget, if you're going from 3 firefighters per shift to 4, that's 33% increase in staffing. Anytime you can get 33% increase in product for any less than 33% in cost, I think that's good math, and I think that's a good investment. And I'm the cheapest guy in the room, and I said it at the public hearing. I normally wouldn't support. I remember a time when we didn't have full resident coverage in the firehouse. We had 24 coverage because we had called firefighters, and we had I think it was a different time. And I remember the sky was falling when we went to resident coverage at the firehouse around the clock. It was 2 per shift. And then there was a time when we went to 3 per shift, and we thought the sky was falling. I don't know, it was a big time, it was a big change. I was not prepared for it, but we went for it. And then for the last 3 years, we've had a free ride on 4 per shift. And now we're being asked to kind of look at it. It's a tough call, no matter how you look at it. I agree that it is a big decision to accept on our own. The training wheels are off, the apron strings are cut, and we're going to pay our own way for that 4th person per shift that we've had the benefit of for the last 3 years at no cost, or very minimal cost with the use of it. So, something to consider.
Thank you, Jason. All right. Jason.
Thank you, Jason Gerhardt, Northfield. it's a point of order as far as Article 2 goes. I'm a little bit confused. So the audit, not the audits, the reports were not accepted. Does this mean?
Jason, I gotta interrupt you.
Yeah.
This is definitely not.
Okay. So
Pertaining.
after the vote's taken, I can address this?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you, sorry about that.
That's
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good evening, thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Justin Cantor, 117 Park Street, new to the area. One of my lovely family in the back. Just want to say a couple things. I rise right now in opposition of this amendment. What I do appreciate to all of the community members is I can see people are paying attention with a close eye to numbers, and that's always good. It's a very clearly fiscally mindful community. But why I rise in opposition to this is one gentleman tonight used a reference of another community. I also work in the fire service in another community. And what I know to be true is every community around us is hurting for not only firefighters, but meeting the needs of their communities. So it's very difficult, I find, to be practical and say that we're using other communities nearby to compare us when we are so unique covering two communities. With that right now, it is incredibly hard to grow your fire department to meet the needs, and that's because of staffing. I work on a state board, and the recruitment is something that I'm doing that's causing that.
Yeah.
The recruitment and retention in EMS providers alone across the state of New Hampshire has dropped significantly. We are not getting people into this service anymore. The PowerPoint tonight showed that as a decrease in those that are willing to participate and volunteer at various adventures, whether that be just as firefighters, whether that be as EMS providers. I never thought myself that I would need services specifically that this district provided. Just recently I've had to call the ambulance twice for my own father, and the services came just like that. It is a lot of money, 22%, 21%, I don't have the exact numbers, I'm not articulate to that point. It is a huge increase. But what I'm here to support is that this organization is heading in the right direction. Before, if I needed an ambulance, I could have questioned, will I get one right away? Or if the crew's already out, will I have to wait an additional time and hope for volunteer staff to come in? Or do I have to wait for mutual aid to come in? And working in this industry, time matters. We never think it'll be us that need an ambulance, a fire truck. But that time does come. As we continue to age, if anyone's got a pill for that, please share it. I'd love that. But as we continue to age, the services are going to be demanding. We have a great organization here in Tilton Northfield, great firefighters. The gentleman spoke that we have a lot of tenured firefighters. There's worth to these people, and sometimes it does come at the back of the taxpayers. But it's so hard, and I hope the chief can step up and speak to this, of the impact that it has on the budget when you carry vacancies. I know that there's multiple fire departments across this state that are carrying vacancies that they can't fill. A lot of them are paramedic positions, a lot of them are just firefighter positions, and they're starting to drop the standards of what they'll take just to be able to fill vacancies. We're headed in a forward direction. I hope you consider voting against this amendment, and we look forward to a better future, and hopefully when you guys need services, the right people show up. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, sir. Scott? Thank you.
Scott Lewandowski, Northfield. So back to the SAFER, I have two things, but I want to start with the SAFER grant. Last year at this meeting, we talked about it. Paul Blaisdell actually did a presentation where we talked about the findings. And we met probably 10 times. We did end up coming up with about $100,000 to $125,000. Last year we voted to change the way that we do the ambulance revenue, where maintenance now is a part of it. That's roughly $50,000 to $60,000 that came out of that committee. So we did try as hard as we could. We had a lot of good ideas. We had a lot of ideas that we felt like would hinder growth in both communities, where we didn't want to hinder business growth or anything like that. So we did look at a lot of different things. Now I will say tonight's issue is kind of a double whammy, and I'll be honest with you, I was kind of worried about it last year. I'm glad the station's not the third whammy that we're voting on tonight, but we knew the SAFER grant was expiring this year, and unfortunately you look at any industry in New Hampshire, salaries are going up. And $25 an hour is a very reasonable salary for the training that we're requiring these folks to get. You can go to asphalt companies right now, are advertising right now for $35 an hour, and they only have a quarter of their certificates that we're asking these people to do at 25. So obviously, I think we've proven the need as a district over the past 4 years with these firefighters that, you know, their need and the value they provide, I think is substantial. And leading into my question, I guess, would be, with this amendment, if anybody on the other side of the table can answer it, what would that do to the impact of the Safer Grant personnel if this gets passed?
Thank you, Scott. Mike, please.
Sure, I think the amendment, 3.1 million, is certainly less than what we even spent last year. So the actual impact being so much from where we are now, it's reduction in staff. There's no place in the operating budget that has that kind of money in it that we can squeeze out without cutting staff. The budget committee and the commissioners went through the operating budget line by line, shaving each line to the bare minimums to make sure we can get through the year. And then when the proposed budget of $3.1 million, way less than what we spent last year, is going to severely affect the amount of services that we're able to provide this year. We're talking more than 4 people. We're talking 8 people probably, where we go back down to possibly only 2 people per shift. 50% of our call volume are thereabouts. Sometimes it's 51, sometimes it's 45, but almost every month it's about 50% of our call volume are simultaneous calls. 2 calls happening at the same time. With 2 people on the ambulance, we can go to 1 call. So who wants to be the other part of that 50% where you have to wait for somebody to come from their house to get to the other ambulance if it's available, or wait for mutual aid to come and take care of you? If you're seriously ill or seriously injured, time really matters. And right now, we're able to handle 2 calls at the same time. If this amendment goes through, that is going to go away for sure. Absolutely.
All right, thank you, Mike. Sorry, there's one more behind. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Sabrina McPhail.
Could you just bend the microphone down a bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
Is that good?
Great.
Don't mean to be short. I just have one question. Where did Kevin get his number from? Like, what made him come up with it? I guess I have 2 questions. What made him come up with it? And the other thing is, how much of the increase that we're looking for, you're looking for, Chief, is because we're losing this year?
Okay.
So there's 2 questions.
I'll take the second question first, Mike, if you could answer that. Just the question.
So the amount of money lost from the Safer Grant is almost $400,000. I don't have the exact number, but it's right around $400,000.
Like I've read that, but we're talking about percentages, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting confused. I'm not trying to be confused, but so of that 400 whatever thousand, that's a big part of your increase that you're looking for. Am I correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
part of the new thing. Each employee at that level costs anywhere from $95,000 to $116,000, depending upon the health insurance that they've picked. And considering what we have in place right now, if you want to know percentage on the tax rate?
No, not on the tax rate. No, we're talking about percentages of this increase that we're getting in the budget. So what my question was is how much of this increase in the budget is because we're losing the Safer Grant? Is what I'm trying to ask. It's like this is a lot of vehicles, what I'm understanding, right?
So the $400,000.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, so she posed a question about where the number in the amendment came from. So thank you for that. I'll have to wait for additional testimony
Kevin Chief, first a point of clarification. I'm looking at pages 7 and 10 on the budget. It says 2023 actual operating budget total is $3,020,277. So, am I correct in understanding that 3.1 million is more than 3,020,000 and not less, as the chief stated? Is the 3,020,000 under actual for 23 what was spent last year? Because that's what it says here. Or is it a different number?
That's without the warrant articles.
So 3.1 million is more than 3,020,000.
Yes.
Thank you. Follow up. Actually, your second question is, I'm really confused about the $163,000 that is in the budget for pressurized hydrants. We sat in this room 3 years in a row. This legislative body voted that down. We all said we do not want to pay for pressurized hydrants. And now, in my view, it's been slipped in, hoping nobody would notice, that now we're going to pay $163,000 for pressurized hydrants when we already said no 3 times. How many times do we have to say no?
Yes. Well, actually, there was a question there. Jason, please.
I think it was on the slide where we spent close to $70,000, by the way, Tim, in legal fees because this went to court and the water district sued the fire district. And after a couple of years of mediation, they tried to come to an agreement and a judge signed it. So we're not slipping anything in and we're not trying to overturn or nothing subversive or sneaky. A judge signed an order that cost us not only for the water, but guess what? Look at our legal fees. Our legal fee lines have been like $5,000, $5,000, $5,000 for years. Now we've spent 70 grand with legal fees because this voting body said, no, we're not going to pay for the hydrants. Well, now a judge says, yeah, you're going to pay it, and we had to pay for all the legal on top of that. So it's really a double whammy. And I believe the water district relented. Listen, I get it. I supported $100,000 years ago when I thought it was going to pay off the water district's debt, and that was the promise, right? Matter of fact, I live in the water district, and when the water district purchased the water company, that was the story. Oh, we're going to pay off the debt, and our rates are going to decrease. And it's not where we're at. That was 20-something years ago. Now, the cost of the water, we didn't want to pay it. I didn't vote for it either, but it went to court, and now we're stuck. We're being forced to pay it. And it costs us a whole lot of money to fight it, but we shouldn't have spent either. So if we're worrying about money for staffing and actual services, if we're looking at a $400,000 expense for staffing, we threw almost 25% of that, almost 100 grand, is going to, by the time the things are done, out to an attorney, when we could have been spending it on the talent here in the district for firefighters and people come to take care of us. We gave it out the door to legal fees.
Thank you, Jason. Mark, please.
Mark Hubble, Northfield, again. I just wanted to address that, Chief, you mentioned you're going to have to reduce people. I support the fire department. I really do. I think everybody here does. But, to not compare towns, as the other gentleman said, you compared towns. You compared towns at $25 an hour compared to your 21. You did a survey of towns. That's what we do, right? You compared towns. I compared Belmont to you, to Tilton Northfield. Similar calls, similar structure. One firefighter less than you guys. $1.6 million more for this fire district. All right. There's the comparison. If you can't hold the same guys for 3.1 when Belmont can do it for $2 million, then maybe that's the call. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So just a reminder that we are discussing the proposed amendment to Article 3, which is to reduce the cost overall of the budget. Let's get, just trying to make sure that we hear from folks we haven't heard from yet. Jane, 1 second.
Dennis Manning, Tilton. I just want to remind you, I'll talk about other towns as well. We have a decrease. We haven't been able to fill. We've had a decrease over the last 20-some years. What do we have? 10 call firefighters. Okay, so we don't have people to fill those roles to help sustain the full-time firefighters. We had a slide up here that was a little earlier. We've actually been providing more mutual aid. So who are we providing that mutual aid to? Other towns who are getting it done for less, kind of, sort of. So everything is going up. We're answering. You look at the graph, everything went up. We're at almost 2,200 calls per year. That's all going up. The cost of business is going up. And the help on the part-time side is going up. So we're either going to have full-time people or we're not going to have any people. That's my say. So I'm against this amendment.
Thank you, Dennis. Jane, please.
If I call the fire department, I really don't get work here.
Just 1 second.
Speak into the mic. Hi, Jane Alden, Tilton. If I'm in a situation where I need the paramedics, I don't really care what they get paid in Belmont. What I care about is what Tilton, Northfield Fire and EMS is going to do for me. And somebody made the point that this town's not getting any younger. I know that, not just because I look in the mirror and I may be old in the dirt, but I can look around me and I know the citizens that are here today, and they were here 10 years ago, and believe me, we all have gray hair. So we are in a situation where we're going to need help in the future. 2.5 weeks ago, I happened to be in the town of Tilton, and one of my neighbors was in real trouble. He couldn't breathe. We called the fire department, and they were there, and he would have died if they had not been there and gotten into the hospital. That same week, I got a call from a woman that I give rides to in Northfield. And she said in her state she could only find my number. And she called and said, Jane, I need help. I went to her home in Northfield, and we had to call the EMTs. And they were there. And they walked in the room and said, oh my God, Jane, you're here too? They took her to the hospital, and she would have died. She was in acute kidney failure, and she would have died if she had not gotten to the hospital. Those two people were in the hospital, one for 2 weeks and one for a week. And if the EMTs in this community hadn't been there for them, that would never have happened. I don't know about the rest of you, but having in the town of Northfield 65 cents extra per $1,000 on your home, or me in the town of Tilton having 51 cents, my life's more important than that, and I think each and every one of yours is. So instead of thinking about the millions that are going to be increased, think about the cents that are going to be increased. 65 cents per 1,000 in Northfield and 51 cents per 1,000 in Tilton. That's a small amount to pay for a life. And the guys are there for you, whether you're in Tilton or you're in Northfield. And we thought long and hard, and it's about time we stood up for our firemen and our EMTs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Kathy Mitchell, Tilton. I move the question.
Okay. Motion to move the question and a second. That's off the debate. Need a 2/3 majority to approve that motion. I'll try a voice vote to start. Those in favor of calling the question on Amendment 1 to Article 3, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. I so declare it. So we shall move to a vote on Amendment 1 to Article 3. And it reads, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,179,650 for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in any special or individual articles addressed separately. All right. Try a voice vote first. Those in favor of Amendment 1 to Article 3, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay? Nay. I got to tell you, I think that the nays had it, but I also think that this is an incredibly important vote. And so I'm going to ask my assistant moderators to come up, just do a vote with the cards. We'll try to do this as quickly as we possibly can. Those in favor of Amendment 1 to Article 3, which would reduce the budget, please hold up your cards now. Those opposed, okay, thank you folks. Those opposed to Amendment 1 to Article 3, please hold up your cards now. Okay, tally votes. Those in favor of Amendment 1 to Article 3, 31. Those opposed, 51. The nays have it, I so declare. We are back to the original language of Article 3 in the warrant. Discussion on that article. Yes, Nancy.
Nancy Court, I'm confused about the way this article is written. The Budget Committee recommended the 3,600,000, etc. number, and the Board of Commissioners recommended a different number. So when we vote on this article, voting for the higher number, is that correct?
Yeah, we are voting on the Budget Committee's recommended sum, $3,690,960.
And if you prefer the Board of Commissioners sum?
There would have to be an amendment to Article 3. That language was included and it was approved by the Division of Revenue Administration. But that is not what we're voting on. If you would like that lower number, you'd have to propose an amendment to reflect that.
It was a confusing way to write the article, though.
I do not disagree. Thank you, Nancy. Scott.
Yeah, Scott Haskins. If Article 3 gets voted down, it goes to what budget number?
Anybody respond to that question? I don't know the answer. Yeah, there is no default. I don't know the answer. Ross, please.
Guilt, I'd like to present an amendment to the article. But basically, if you'd like it, moderator can read it.
Okay, this would be proposed amendment 2 to Article 3, and I presume you're looking to replace the language with what you have here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it would read, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,555,019 as recommended by the Commissioners for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. Majority of vote is required. That is submitted by Ross Cunningham. Is there a second to that motion? Second. Okay. Would you like to speak to your amendment?
Sure. So I went to the public hearing. I've taken some time, took the time to speak to the chief today. I appreciate the time, chief. You can hear all night long what the issues surrounding is. And my internal struggle with this is the math. It's roughly 22.52 is the increase. If you go with this, it's 18%. Now, is that a palatable thing for everybody in the room? Perhaps it isn't, but I do respect what the fire service does. I understand now what the safer grant process is. I do understand taking care of employees is key. My only pushback is it's a bottom line budget. I'm not here to tell the commission or the chief or anybody in this room how to operate your fire department. What I'm asking is, if this gets approved, you have a way to take care of your employees. Let's not use that in any other way than take care of the employees. It's a bottom line budget. You can work the math and take care of what you need to take care of within a bottom line budget. So that's why I respectfully ask for the difference between the 22.52 and the 18%. And quite frankly, the commissioners were pliable then and the number changed, and I respectfully understand why the number changed, but I would still tell you 22.52 is a hell of a lot of pill to swallow considering where we are. So I would respectfully request that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. All right, so I'm going to ask for additional testimony regarding Amendment 2 to Article 3, but that said, we've heard a lot of testimony already about why the budget's higher and what the argument is for lowering the budget. So please bear that in mind if you have testimony on Amendment 2. Jason, please.
I'm just going to ask the same question I asked a while ago. Is the commissioner's number have the hydrants in it? If it does, that affects how I vote. If it's not in there, that affects how I vote. So I just want to make sure before I consider my vote, does the commissioner's number have the hydrants in it?
Thank you, Jason. Somebody answer that. Tim, please.
Jason, yes, that number is included in that amount.
Thank you, Tim. So, yeah, Jennifer, please. All right.
Jennifer Haskins. I'm trying to kind of follow all the numbers that are being thrown out around here, and it's really hard. But on the handout that was given to us, on page 1, it says total expenses. And then on page 7, it says operating budget. When I look at these numbers over the last 2 years, they don't match at all. They look like we're spending almost $200,000 more every year. Am I reading that correctly or not?
Thank you, Jen. Mike, please.
The difference really is the operating budget, and then after that there are amendments, warrant articles that are added onto it in about $200,000, so that's where the difference is.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Are you waiting to? Okay, please. Thank you. Sorry, I couldn't tell if you were just.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Justin Cantor, 117 Park Street. I rise again in opposition to this amendment. Just to clarify some of what I said earlier that seems to be misconstrued is what it is hard is we always look for objective data and comparing and figuring out what's the right decision, what's the wrong decision. And yes, in the fire service globally, we do use comparison of how the organizations are. But what we don't have an ability to do is when we compare ourselves to another organization, that they also have similar needs problems. What we're comparing to through the lens of today is it equivalent to the same problems that we have. Our budget might be significantly higher than Belmont, but are they also in the same battle where they're trying to improve to meet their demands? The Budget Committee is, empowered to do the right thing and to vet everything that's going through. And I would ask if you came here with an open mind tonight and willing to understand that maybe there's a lot of questions raised as we go back and forth on numbers, and maybe there's been some trust that's been broken. But if we were to use Jane Alden's numbers, which I can't articulate when we talk about cents on the thousands and what this probably number looks overall, I would encourage you to please vote this amendment down, because now we're just talking the difference of, you know, a little under 200,000. I think we need to do what's right. We need to remember that although we're here vocalizing our opinions, we're also speaking on behalf of thousands of community members that couldn't make it tonight, that maybe are pleased with their services. They're pleased with the way the organization's going. They're pleased to know that someday they might have to call on emergency services, and they're going to want everything that can be done for this department that we can step up to do as public servants and public representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. All right, all right, so it's time to hear from sorry, Kevin.
Kevin King, Tilton. I own my own business, and I've done a lot of budgets for years when I worked for other people. I know there's a number of other business owners here in the room tonight, and I would suggest that as the owner of my business, I have the closest understanding of what it takes in revenue and in expenses to operate my business. So to suggest that, well, the chief probably won't believe I'm going to say this, he probably has the best understanding of what it takes to operate the department. And his budget is $3.4 million. Now the commissioners would have the next best idea of what it takes to run the department, because that's their job. We elect them to watch over our money that we give to the fire department. And they do that on a monthly basis. The farthest away would be the budget committee. So, as much as I hate to say it, I'll support this amendment at $3.5 million because it comes from the commissioners who are far closer to what it takes to run the department than the budget committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin, please. Kevin.
It's usually moving on Kevin here. So, the gentleman who spoke about something about roughly something $200,000 brought to my memory that the fire district budget, which I understand is 2 towns, I get that. The fire district budget is within 200,000 of the entire town of Northfield's budget. 200.
Thank you, Kevin. I think the actual difference is closer to 145,000. If my math is correct. Further testimony on Amendment 2, yes, please.
I liked hearing the idea that the chief had the best numbers and that the commissioners had second best numbers, and that somehow the budget committee was far removed from the situation. I'll tell you that the budget committee, 7 people, one of whom is a commissioner that sits on this committee, took a long view. Chief wanted to ask you for an increase from $21 to I think about $23. And the budget committee said, yeah, great, but what happens when you look at this wage study that doesn't involve one town and one data point? The wage study that was on the board had well over a dozen communities. The budget committee took the long view and said, we don't want to come back and ask the taxpayers again for raises next year. We want to get this done and get into the middle of the dartboard so Tilton Northfield remains the place to be or to come to, and not have turnover or lose to Guilford or to other towns. We know we're not these other towns and we don't want to be, but we knew we wanted to take a longer view. And we didn't want to come back as the budget committee and say, well, yeah, it was $2 last year and it's $2 this year. And keep doing that moving doggish, and that's where the deception, and that's where that subversive, sneaky thing. We at the budget committee said, no, we want to get it right now because we know the other towns around are going to move, and we want to be a little more aggressive than our neighbors and try to take a stand because we don't want to get this again next year if we're looking at a building or looking at some other things. So that's, in all of our budget meetings, we had very similar discussions on that. And those public meetings that you're welcome to attend, I would share that information as we did through the year. But we really wanted to go long term because we're paying it too. We just don't want to keep paying bigger chunks. We wanted to get it done in 1 year.
Thank you, Jason. I should correct myself. The difference is closer to 135,000. 4 years of heavily math-oriented major on that one, so sorry for that. I am seeing a couple people, so just a reminder, we're just talking about the proposed amendment to Article 3, Kevin.
So if this amendment passes, I'm hearing from a budget committee member who, at the end of the night, is going to be over at this table, that there's no raises next year. However, we heard from the current sitting commissioner that we're not going to be average next year. Those seem to be two opposite statements.
Thank you, Kevin. Jennifer, I would like to hear from Jason first. I haven't heard from him yet. Thanks.
Jason Durgan, please move the question.
Second, all right. Thank you, Jason. Sorry about that, Jennifer. Yeah, I will accept that motion. All right, that will end debate. 2/3 majority. I call the question on proposed amendment 2 to Article 3. Try a voice vote first. Those in favor of calling the question on Amendment 2 to Article 3, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, I so declare it. All right, so the amendment to Article 3 would replace the language that you see in the warrant to read, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $3,555,019 as recommended by the commissioners for general municipal operations. This article does not include appropriations contained in special or individual articles addressed separately. All right, voice vote. This is just for Amendment 2 to Article 3 that does not pass the article. It's just on the amendment to change the budget number. Those in favor of Amendment 2 to Article 3, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. Sorry, you're going to have to go to a voter's count. Moderators, please.
Yeah. We gotta have a little bit of good argument going on.
Okay, those in favor of Amendment 2 to Article 3, please hold up your voter cards now. Thank you. Those opposed to Amendment 2, please hold up your voter cards now. Thank you, Assistant Moderators. Thank you for voting. All right, those in favor of Amendment 2 to Article 348, those opposed 30. The ayes have it, I so declare. So, Article 3 has been amended as read, so basically just changes the budget number to $3,555,019. So we are back to what is the article now. We're going to potentially vote. We can have discussion, although we've heard many of the arguments you would expect to hear at this point. So we're going to vote right now. It will be on Article 3 as amended. Are you prepared for the vote? Yes? All right, try a voice vote. Those in favor of Article 3 as amended, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Article 3 as amended passes. Yes.
Protect the vote.
Motion to restrict reconsideration of the vote under Article 40:10. So that's a motion made by Eric Pyra, seconded by Mark Hebert. All right. Any discussion on that motion? Those in favor of restricting reconsideration of the vote on amended Article 3, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it as so declared. Okay. I just need a moment here. All right. So I'm going to recognize Jason just to revisit the business on Article 2. The reason I'm going to accept that right now before we move on is because I'm a little confused myself. So Jason, please.
So I don't know the local areas. I don't know the actual answer, but I was looking online. Does this mean that the reports will be audited now by an outside auditor? Or will the committee audit them and then bring it to the board for approval? What happens? I don't understand this.
Anybody address that? Mike, please.
So every year we hire an outside auditing firm to go through our entire books, and so they are audited by an outside company.
I don't know. So it's the reports. So the body didn't accept the reports of the Treasurer and Fire Commissioner. Is there any vote relating thereto in the reports that?
Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't need. Tim, please.
Mr. Moderator, I don't believe that the treasurer created a report.
Okay.
And I don't believe that the commissioners have created a report.
Thank you. Look, I do not care to belabor this point, but it was a valid question, and I don't think we.
Can I make a follow-up?
Yes, please.
To put forth an amendment to release the reports or whatever documents exist to the public for transparency reasons?
Can I recommend that we hold off just a second on amendment, because Tim Pierce is behind you. I'd like to hear from Tim regarding the question about the Treasurer's report.
Well, I am very happy to be able to speak to the Treasurer's report, which should be in your annual reports for Tilton and Northfield. And having been the Treasurer for the last 3 years, I'm excited to say that yes, there is a report, and yes, you can turn to the page and read it. It's just the accounting of the monies that flowed in and out of those particular accounts. And as you may not know, the fire commissioners are responsible for the expenditures and approving the expenditures, but the treasurer is responsible for the disbursement of the funds. So the report is in your annual report. I do it every year. We'll continue to as long as it's ready. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. All right, so Jason, I'll invite you back to follow up. I don't think there's much to do.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to Article 4. 2C, if the district will vote to raise and appropriate $252,849 for the purpose of purchasing fire rescue EMS equipment and ambulance charges, with said funds to be withdrawn from the Apparatus and Equipment Replacement Special Revenue Fund established under RSA 31:95- C, adopted March 7th, 2005. Funds appropriated from this fund do not affect the tax rate. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners, and $225,559 is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Do I have a motion? Motion by Eric, second by Jerry. Eric, please.
Yeah, this is the question where we take the money out of the apparatus and equipment fund to supply, buy certain supplies for the fire and EMS division, equipment and things like that. The biggest difference is the $27,290, which is on page 9 under fire equipment, is the base station repeaters where the commissioners were okay with the microwave link for that, and the budget committee was not okay with that, so they removed it from the budget, and that's where your biggest difference is. But you can see there the different things that they get, the gas meters, replacing some of the hose. It's also included in this number is the commission that we pay to Comstar for collecting ambulance funds, which I believe is 6%. And then also last year we voted to move vehicle repairs into this area as well. So the vehicle repairs, the chief has a list for each piece of equipment or each vehicle, what the maintenance schedule is going to be. And then you'll see there's a vehicle repairs other, and that's for those weird things that pop up that we don't know about, and it's just there. If these funds are not used, they go back into the apparatus and equipment fund.
Thank you, Eric. I'm going to ask what to me is the obvious question. Why is there a $2,700? Why do we have that last sentence that says the budget committee? Okay.
That was the
2,700, yeah.
27,000. That was for microwave link. That was the difference. So the budget committee and the board of commissioners agreed on the total amount except for the base station repeaters microwave link, which was $27,290.
Okay, and the reason that we have that sentence in there is because DRA insisted on that. Okay, thank you. Okay, discussion on Article 4. Kevin.
Do we not vote on the budget committees? This is budget committee's budget, correct?
It's for the budget, but not for the... I don't know the answer. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to answer the question. Can somebody address that? Mike, please.
So this is a warrant article from the commissioners, so you're voting the commissioners' recommendation. Article 3, the operating budget, is the budget committee's recommendation. Every other warrant article in here is the commissioners, except for the operating budget, which is the budget committee.
Thank you, Mike. Are you looking to follow up?
So I have the same question. What is that sentence doing here? Why is it there if it's not? I get why it was in Article 3. This makes no sense to me. The number we are in fact voting on is 252.
So when DRA gets our warrant articles to approve, and they read the minutes of how they got there, they said that this language had to be on the warrant article. We didn't want it there because we understand that's confusing. And you want a number to vote on, not to look at two numbers and say, which one am I voting on? I can tell you, I can tell you which one you're voting on, but I completely sympathize. It's not what we wanted. DRA made us do.
Thank you, Mike. So, just for clarification, DRA is the Division of Revenue Administration. They review the warrant every year and all the articles therein and approve whatever goes in. Are you looking to follow up?
Please. Okay. Is the 154,000 or whatever the number is for equipment and for the proposed ambulance in Article 5 part of this 252?
No.
Shouldn't it be?
Thank you, Kevin. Gretchen, please.
Hi. So the apparatus and equipment replacement fund. So we've changed it yet again. So now, do I understand correctly that we now have equipment, like the vehicle equipment, being pulled from that in addition to everything else?
Mike, please.
Yes, so last year we had a warrant article that amended the purpose of the apparatus and equipment fund to include repairs, service, and maintenance on the vehicles and equipment. And that moved it from the operating budget.
Just a comment, I guess, as a taxpayer, when we created that, we had an idea what the money was, how we were getting to it, how we were obtaining the money, and how we were spending the money. So when we want to change it, we just have to put an amendment in?
Well, this was a recommendation of the SAFER Committee to help defray the
I'm sorry,
cost.
who?
The SAFER Committee recommended that we do this. We ran it by DRA to see if it's okay to do so, and they approved it. So it went forward as a warrant article for the recommendation of the SAFER Committee and approved by the commissioners and voted on by the body.
Okay, who's the SAFER Committee? Is that something we have formed in this district?
The commissioners appointed a group of people to form a SAFER, to see what they could do to help defray the cost of the SAFER employees once the SAFER grant ended. And so they met, they had a report, which was included in last year's district meeting. I believe Paul Blaisdell read the report out loud to you guys. And then at the appropriate time, when that warrant item came up, it passed. So this is the first year where those items are taken out of the operating budget and put in the apparatus and equipment budget.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, just point of clarification. So the money that we ran out of the grant money to pay for the new employees is also coming out of here too? Oh, all right, that's what I understood that at. Okay. So no salaries, it's just equipment and things like that.
That's
So
correct.
if I wanted to change this, I could just run it past DRA and we can change it to anything and just have the legislative body vote on it? Is that correct? Okay, no, it's all right, I'll reach out to DRA.
Thanks.
Oh, they're moving.
Further discussion, Article 4. All right, seeing none, are we ready for the votes? All right. Do I need to read the article again? Is everybody good with that? Okay, all right. Those in favor of Article 4 as read, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, I so declare it. Article 4 passes. Article 5, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate $559,520 for the purpose of a new ambulance with equipment, with said funds to be withdrawn from the apparatus and equipment special revenue fund established under RSA 31:95-C, adopted March 7th, 2005. Funds appropriated from this fund do not affect the tax rate. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion? So moved by Tim, second by Jerry. Tim, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This article is to fund the purchase. This article is to fund the purchase of a replacement for A1 per the capital improvements plan. A1 is the 2017 ambulance, which currently has just over 100,000 miles on it. The lead time for the new ambulance is 2 years with expected delivery here to the district in 2026. Payment will not be made until we receive the new ambulance, and the funds come from the apparatus equipment fund, which currently has a balance of $1,002,095. The monies in this fund come from ambulance revenue, which last year was $572,668. Additionally, instead of trading in the old ambulance 1, the commissioners are looking to keep it as a backup for when either of the two primary vehicles are out of service for maintenance or repairs. Those times when we have only one ambulance, response time goes up substantially, and in many cases, mutual aid is required. Last year, in 2023, we lost $28,500 in revenue due to having your ambulance out of service for maintenance or repair. The article includes $400,000 for the ambulance and $159,000 for equipment to equip the ambulance. Return on this investment is about 5 years. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Tim. Discussion, Article 5.
So we're going to spend $500,000 to regain $30,000 in lost revenue. This will give us 3 ambulances, correct?
Mike, please.
Sure. So what the idea is that we'll have 3 ambulances they won't be all manned. We're decommissioning the rescue trucks, so the fleet size will remain the same. But it's not the $28,500 last year that we would have gained. What it is, it's when one of our ambulances is out of service for repairs or maintenance, we need to rely on mutual aid for a second ambulance, even though we have the staffing to staff a second ambulance is not available. What this will do is reduce the response times for those when we have those second and third calls. That's the most important thing about having a third ambulance available. It's the most important thing.
Thank you, Mike. Paul.
Please. So if we are going to a 2 in service, 1 backup, I'm not understanding the need for the equipment because it's a backup. When the ambulance goes down, does not stuff, or could not, does not, because we may not want to do that because for whatever reason, but could not that equipment go to the other rig?
Mike?
I would thought the same thing, but the way you have to license an ambulance in the state of New Hampshire, if it is not equipped, it will not be licensed. You cannot transport anybody in it, and then you cannot send a bill out for any transports if you were to use it. So it has to be licensed. To be licensed, it has to be equipped.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Kevin.
I see someone else who wants to talk, but I'd like another opportunity.
Gretchen, please.
Hey Tim, how are you? Can you just, a point of clarification, you said something about we lost X amount of dollars
Point of order, please.
revenue? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, can you run over those numbers? Can you explain how you calculated lost revenue? Does that include maybe transports, or is that just calls covered for our incidences for the district?
I can answer that because I can tell you how the numbers arrived at. So there happened to be about 15 transports that we used mutual aid for while one of our ambulances was out of service for repairs or maintenance. We used more mutual aid than that, but that was usually for when we're having a third or fourth call at the same time, which does happen as well. So for the times where our ambulance was out of service and we had to use mutual aid, that's how that $28,500 came up.
Okay, transport for the layman, that's when we take a patient from an institution to another institution. It's not something that happens within our district. We're just moving people, and it's a logistic kind of thing.
Those are emergencies where we go to somebody's house or a car accident and take somebody to the hospital. It's not a transfer, it's a transport.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Gretchen. Jennifer, please.
I'm not against this article, I just have some questions. So in this fund, you said there was about $1 million. If both of these pass, it brings it down to, let's just say 110, it's probably like 120 something. The number that you had on your slide with the revenue from ambulance was $572,000 about. Is that an average number? So can we expect that we should be getting that again next year, or is that like a once in a lifetime thing?
So that number is it'll probably be a little higher this year. We'll probably be closer to $600,000 this year.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, thank you, Jennifer. We do have some people. I can't remember her name, I'm sorry.
That's all right, Ellen Hardenberg.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just have a point of question. We're talking about it coming from the apparatus and equipment special reserve revenue fund. However, in the prior article, we have it coming from the apparatus and equipment replacement special revenue fund. Do we have two funds?
No, that's probably a typo.
Okay, we have that also in Article 6. Different.
Thank you, Alan. Justin, please. I think you were there before you started.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I rise in support of this motion. The numbers, no doubt, are shocking, but what I want to share in my experience, this is a sentiment that we're experiencing in all communities. And I think some of this is not only just planning for now, planning for the future. I'm no vehicle mechanic, but I know every time you try to go do something with your vehicle, either a part is backlisted, it's on order, your vehicle's out, or you're just taking a chance and waiting until the next thing breaks. And it's very common right now with ambulances, with how much they're being used, how many road miles that get put on them, and even the odometer doesn't do justice of the wear and tear that's happened to that vehicle. It sounds like it's been a current issue right now that when we have one ambulance down, we only have one to cover the two towns. Having a third ambulance will put it, I assume, not only another one in motion to handle if there's 3 calls simultaneously, so we're less relying on mutual aid to cover our own calls, but also probably could allow for a preventative maintenance program if there isn't already one, so that if one goes down, you still have that 2 backup. This is a shared sentiment with all of the communities. Just as a point of reference, I work in a community where we have 4 ambulances for the city, and we're about to have 3 reserve ambulances. So it is a real problem. It's taking at least a 2-year lead time for any apparatus purchase. We're talking specifically ambulances, but it's also getting that way for fire trucks. And if you look out and look at the projections, the costs will only continue to increase with the apparatus. So if we put this off to today, it's just going to be more expensive the year after and the year after, and these purchases will keep coming. So I am supportive of Article 55.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Tilton, I don't understand the reference to the payback amount that Mr. Sattler referred to, or the payback time that Tim referred to. My understanding was that having one ambulance broken down caused, what, 8 mutual aid responses, or 15, which was it?
Mutual aid response transports. Now, there were more mutual aid ambulances that came when we only had 1 ambulance available, but actually 15 of those calls were transport. There was more in the order of 32 that were showed up. 15 ended up being transports.
Thank you, Mike. Okay, so 32 times we had to use mutual aid because one of our 2 ambulances was broken. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And that was over the course of how long of a period of time? 1 day? 1 year?
1 year.
No, but like, was that 3 days it was broken? 4 times it was broken?
So, actually, the 1 ambulance, if I added up all the days that one of the ambulances was out of service, it's about 3 weeks.
A total of 3 weeks for over the course of the year. That we only had 1 ambulance.
That's correct.
That helps me understand the $28,000 in lost revenue was not from emergency responses. It was from Franklin Hospital called and said, "Hey, can you guys take somebody to Concord?" Is that? I don't understand the transport.
No, those were emergency calls where we responded to somebody's house or a car accident or someplace within the fire district because somebody needed help.
So we had to rely on mutual aid from Franklin or San Antonio, or somebody within the Lake Street Fire mutual aid program, right?
Yes.
To respond to an emergency in Tilton, Northfield. I'm understanding this a little bit better now. But I'm going to go back to the return, if you will, the payback. And if I can clarify, Tim, you said that would take about a year for us to pay back the purchase price of the ambulance? Yes. Yeah, please.
Thank you for asking that, because as soon as you asked it, you're right, it wasn't clear. The equipment replacement program is asking for us to replace the ambulance in 2026, and that's the $400,000. The past 2 ambulances that we've traded in, we received $5,000 for one and $8,000 for the other, which is part of the thought process behind, well, rather than trade it in, let's just keep it. And if we keep that ambulance, as we've been discussing, we have to equip it, and the equipment is $150,000, $79,000. So I was relating that $157,000 of additional equipment that we'd have to purchase to equip that ambulance. And by being able to answer all those calls because we have that backup ambulance, we would then have saved that, or would have earned that, or would have received that $28,000. And therefore, over a 5-year period, that would have covered the cost of that $159,000 worth of equipment. The other thing that I might want to point out at this time is we've taken Rescue 1 out of service. Last year, it was called out 6 times. It was canceled twice en route. 2 times it arrived on scene and was not needed. And 2 times it arrived on scene and did traffic control. In 2022, the rescue was called out 6 times. It was sent back 5 times before it got to the call and only responded once. Last year we put 60 miles on that truck. So the thought was that the engines have all the same equipment the rescue does except for our heavy hydraulic cutting tools. So we moved those hydraulic tools over to the ladder truck and we're getting rid of the rescue truck. And we're actually, we have it listed on a fire equipment sales site. And we've got actually 2 parties interested and we're asking $45,000 for the truck. Those proceeds will go back into the operating budget. So from the commissioner's perspective, to get $45,000 for the rescue, keep the ambulance where we might have got $5,000 to $10,000 for trade-in value, to have it, it all made sense to us. So that number for the 5-year return on investment was for the equipment that we would have to buy to equip that ambulance.
Thank you for the explanation. One last question. Can we put a plow on the rescue truck?
Thank you, Kevin. Sorry. Okay, we've heard a lot of testimony on Article 5. Kevin?
Three ambulances for a department that does 2,200 calls. City of Laconia does 5,000 calls. How many ambulances do they have? 3. Why do we need 3 ambulances for 2,200 calls when there's a city that does more than twice what we do? They have 3. I understand they're going to buy another one. Still, they've done their job of 5,000 calls with 3. Also, there's want to buy an ambulance, go buy an ambulance. Why does that need to be $500,000? Ashland's buying one for $330. Home's buying one for $356 or some such number. It's been a while since I felt that he exercised any caution when buying anything. It appears that over the top has become the bottom of the barrel for us. I'm guessing this ambulance is going to be identical to the one we have. Maybe the 2 we have. Maybe with the exception that this one may have a gasoline engine in it. But it's still going to be an F550 4-wheel drive. At what point in time do we just say, you know what? We don't really need to be all that in a bag of chips all the time. My name is my name, but my point is, we can spend less and get the same thing done. Why do we never do that?
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, we've heard lots of testimony on Article 5. Further testimony? Here's
from Kelton. Chief, how old is the rescue?
Mike?
Built in 2000.
Old?
The rescue was built in 2000. The oldest the ambulance is built.
How old is the heavy rescue? I mean, big white one.
2000. So it's 24 years old.
We still we use that?
No.
I just wondering. We'll find out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Further testimony, Article 5. Seeing none, try a voice vote. Does anyone want me to read the article again? Thank you. Those in favor of Article 5 as read, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes have it. I so declare Article 5 passes.
I want to make a motion to protect our vote. Can I do it for the last two articles? We can do it on
Well, do one at a time if you would, please.
Sure. I'll make a motion to protect our vote on Article 4.
Article 4. Here we have a second. Again, Jason Wright. Discussion on that motion. That motion is to protect the vote on Article 4. Those in favor of that motion, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, so declared.
I'd also like to make a motion to protect the vote on Article 5. Second.
Seconded. All right. Everybody understand the motion? All right. Those in favor of the motion to protect the vote on Article 5, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, so declared. Thank you, Matt. Article 6. To see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $79,950 for the purpose of purchasing a new 3/4 ton 4x4 pickup with plow, with said funds to be withdrawn from the Apparatus and Equipment Special Revenue Fund established under RSA 31:95-C, adopted March 7th, 2005. Funds appropriated from this fund do not affect the tax rate. This article was recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion? So moved by Tim, seconded by Jerry. Thank you. Paul, please.
This is to replace a 2005 pickup that we have put a lot of money in it over the years, and it's almost 20 years old. It's time to get rid of it.
Thank you, Paul. Further discussion, Article 6. Scott Haskins.
Yeah, Scott Haskins. Is it like a Ford, Chevy? Do you guys shop around, or does it strictly have to stick with the manufacturers that you deal with? I mean,
Mike, please.
We use the state bid, and it's a Ford F-250.
and that's cheaper than the Chevy or GMC? Or do you know?
It was about the same price.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Kevin, please.
It's not the current vehicle an F-350. Why are we going down to 250? You're plowing that road up to your Shed Road Tower that the town knows won't plow for you. I can tell you that I've had every configuration of Ford truck built since 1981. There isn't a huge difference between a 250 and a 350, price-wise. And I can also tell you from experience, the state bid is not always the best price. So, because this is worded 3/4 ton, you're stuck with it. All you can buy is a 3/4 ton. Maybe we should consider taking a couple of minutes, getting that 3/4 ton out of there. If you're plowing that road, you really should have a 1 ton. And if I can convince the town of Northfield, like I've tried to plow that road for us, I'm telling you, 27, 28 trucks I own. I know what they do and I know the differences. I got no issue buying a truck. I don't get the 80 grand for a non-retail purchase, but no issue buying a truck. I want to see you buy a 1 ton. But unless you change this, you cannot do that.
Thank you, Kevin.
Please, take that time. You can do it.
Further discussion, Article 6. Those in favor of Article 6 as read, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. I so declare. Article 6 passes. Article 7. To see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Land and Building Capital Reserve Fund previously established, and to make the Board of Fire Commissioners agents of the fund, to the fund. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion? So moved by Kevin. Second by Jerry. Eric, please. Oh, is it? I'm sorry, Paul.
Yep.
That's
all right. As of 2023, we have $792,456.25 in there. And that was in December of 2023.
Thank you, Paul. Matt, please.
I'd like to make a motion to protect our vote on Article 6.
Oh, thank you. And that can be any time. So there's a motion to take the vote. Second. I didn't get your name. I'm sorry. Okay. Moved and seconded to protect the vote on Article 6. Is there any discussion on that? Those in favor of the motion, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes have it. The vote on Article 6 is protected. Article 7, we're back to that. So we had an explanation from Paul to start. Is there discussion on Article 7? Scott?
Just a question real quick. That $792,000, are we making any money on that from interest every year, or is it just sitting there on
Mike,
So it's with the trust fund commissioners, and it is in an account that is making interest.
Thank you, Mike. Kevin?
This is one of my favorite articles, because you know I like to save money and pay for things when you buy them, right? So, typically, and I came here prepared to do so, I would want to amend this to come from the unreserved fund. But this is different. I'm not going to do that. We've seen this for several years now. We always try to do 100. I think it's a great idea. Just to be clear, this will be new tax money. But the big change is that we will now make the commissioners agents to expend, which means they don't need a vote to spend that money. This account was started with the idea that it takes a vote to put money in, and it takes a vote to take money out. We decide what comes out and for what. I'm not looking to change that. So I'm going to give you the second of my amendments for Article 7, which simply states, to see if the district vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the Land and Building Capital Reserve Fund previously established.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second, there's several options, but we'll go with Greg. Buy a lottery ticket on the way up. Okay, so the language of proposed amendment 1 to Article 7. It reads, to see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum $100,000 to be added to the Land and Building Capital Reserve Fund previously established. Discussion on that motion? Seeing none?
Any purchase for land and building is going to come here for a vote anyway, because it will most likely take a bond, and there's no, the article would read X amount bond and so much from this land and building fund. So there's really no need to make the commissioners agents to expend when we can vote the money when we need it.
Thank you, Kevin. Further discussion on Amendment 1 to Article 7. Oh, I'm sorry. Jason, thank you.
As a soon-to-be incoming commissioner, I don't know preference either way, but I think the understanding of the change in the wording of having the commissioners be allowed to expend, I think it was for if they had to get some survey done or some test borings or something through the course of the year. We don't want to wait till the annual meeting of, hey, there was this parcel that we're exploring that the body agreed to vote or something, but we'd have to wait the following year to do any tests or any of that perk or anything along the way on a purchase or on a parcel that the body agreed to do. I think it just gave the commissioners the ability to work on a piece of land that was agreed upon. And I could be wrong, but that was my understanding.
Thank you, Jason. Just want to see if there's anyone else who wants to. Scott, you want to?
Yeah, I apologize. Sometimes I don't speak Kevin Waldron, so I need to understand if we vote for Mr. Waldron's amendment, does that mean commissioners do not spend the money unless asked? Is that correct?
So, last year, you voted to let the commissioners be agents to the fund. So they are already agents to the fund. I believe when we drafted the warrant article this year, that language should have more read what like Kevin's amendment is. It's not going to change that the commissioners are now not agents of the fund. They already are.
Thank you, Mike. Kevin?
If there's no change, I move to table.
Okay. Yeah. We're talking about the amendment, so if the motion is to be appropriated, it would be to table your own amendment. What are you looking to do? Well, then, proposal to table the article would have to come after we deal with the amendment. Any further discussion on proposed amendment 1 to Article 7? All right, seeing none. Those in favor of Amendment 1 to Article 7, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
The nays have it. Amendment 1 fails. So we're back to the original Article 7. We've had a fair amount of discussion about Article 7. Is there any further discussion? Or do you have somebody coming to us?
Scott Delavo, Northfield. This does not say where that money is to be appropriated from, whether it's going to be raised by taxes or out of the fund.
It is to be raised and appropriated. The tax is correct? Yes. Yes, thank you. Okay. Kevin. Second. Okay, further testimony on Article 7. That was so close.
So, you say that we voted on this year, last year. Do we have documentation of that?
Probably in the report.
Does it say that?
Okay. Further testimony on Article 7. Seeing none, is it necessary for me to read it again? No. Okay, those in favor of Article 7 as read, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay?
Nay.
Ooh, who's right? I'm sorry. We're going to do a quick vote. I want to make sure I get this right. Okay. Those in favor of Article 7 as read, please hold up your voter cards now.
Hurry up.
Sorry, those opposed to Article 7. So the voter cards now. Okay, thank you, Assistant Moderators. The vote went 39 in favor and 27 opposed. Article 7 passes, and I so declare. Okay, there is a motion to take the vote on Article 7. There's a second by Jason. Discussion on that motion? Those in favor of restricting the reconsideration of the vote on Article 7, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Nay. The ayes have it, so declared. Article 8. To see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $9,627 for the purpose of adding to the existing fire prevention expendable trust fund, with said funds to be withdrawn from the unassigned fund balance. Funds appropriated from this fund do not affect the tax rate. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion? So moved by Eric, second by Jerry. Eric, please.
Yeah, this is the monies that are collected from fire inspections over the course of the year are put into the unassigned fund balance, and this article takes the money and moves it into the fire prevention expendable trust fund, and then in the next article we would take that money and put it towards the budget, and then the remaining balance currently is about $46,000 in there, and that will be used to replace the fire prevention trailer that they use for fire education in the different schools.
Thanks, Eric. Further discussion on Article 8. Seeing none. Those in favor of Article 8 as read, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, so declared. Article 8 passes. Article 9. To see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4,709 for the purpose of purchasing materials, tools, and equipment related to public education, code enforcement, training, etc., with said funds to be withdrawn from the Fire Prevention Expendable Trust Fund. Funds appropriated from this fund do not affect the tax rate. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion? So moved by Eric, second Jerry. Thank you. Eric, please.
These are the funds that we, the budget that the fire prevention has come up with, what they need to run the program for this year, which is $4,709, as it says, to materials, tools, and equipment for public education, court enforcement training, and the like.
Thanks, Eric. Further discussion on Article 9. Seeing none. Those in favor of Article 9 as read, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. I so declare Article 9 passes. Article 10. To see if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,500 for the purpose of adding to the existing health insurance deductible expendable trust fund, with said funds to be withdrawn from the unassigned fund balance. Funds appropriated from this fund do not affect the tax rate. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion? So moved by Paul Auger. Seconded by Jerry. Paul, please.
Okay, we'd like to try to keep a balance in there of $5,500. This year we spent $1,473.52. The current balance in there is $4,955.29.
Thank you, Paul. Further discussion, Article 10. Article.
Just a question, I'd like you to clarify what this fund is used for.
Mike, please.
Sure, so part of the benefits plan for our employees is that we pay, so that we get a cheaper health insurance plan, we have a higher deductible, and we pay a portion of that deductible.
Thank you, Mike. Further discussion, Article 10. Seeing none, those in favor of Article 10 as read, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Ayes so declared. Article 10 passes. Article 11. 2C, if the district will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $23,876 for the purpose of adding to the existing Communications Tower Expendable Trust Fund as established by warrant Article 11 at the 2021 district meeting, with said funds to be withdrawn from the unassigned fund balance. Funds appropriated from this fund do not affect the tax rate. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. Is there a motion? So moved by Tim, second Jerry. Thank you. Tim, please.
This article is to move the revenue received from the cell tower into the trust fund. As you remember, half of the money stays in the budget to lower taxes, and the other half goes into the Communications Trust Fund. This is the half that we're transferring over to the trust fund.
Thank you, Tim. Further discussion, Article 11. Seeing none, those in favor of Article 11 as read, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. I so declare that Article 11 passes. Article 12. 2C, if the district will vote to establish a contingency fund per RSA 31:91-A and raise and appropriate $30,127 to put in the fund. The sum to come from the unassigned fund balance. Any appropriation left in the fund at the end of the year will lapse to the general fund. Funds appropriated from this fund do not affect the tax rate. This article is recommended by the Board of Commissioners and is recommended by the Budget Committee. Majority vote is required. If I have to say fund one more time in this. Is there a motion? So moved by Eric, second by Jerry. Thank you. Eric, please.
This is the amount that DRA requires us to have as a contingency, as a percentage of the previous year's budget. And we put that money aside so in case we have an unforeseen circumstance where we go over the budget, this is where that money would come from first.
Thank you, Eric. Further discussion on Article 12. Gretchen.
So question for you, DRA likes us to have, and I'm not sure what the technical term is, I'm not using slush fund, but a savings account, of course no one can give me a number, between like 5 and 10% of our previous budget. So that money would go specifically into this contingency fund?
Mike.
So it's 1% of the previous year's operating budget, and that's per the RSA, and it is used only through a vote of the commissioners. I can't just spend it like I would regularly in the normal operating budget, and it probably wouldn't. We've never used it for every time we've had it, but it's like a safe gap for us just in case. And it comes out of the, and if we don't use it, it goes right back into the unassigned fund balance.
Thank you, Mike.
So we don't, I thought we created one of these contingency funds a couple of years ago.
Sure, this by the RSA has to be voted every year.
Oh, it's the same fund?
Same thing. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. Further discussion on Article 12. Seeing none, those in favor of Article 12 as read, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. I so declare that Article 12 passes. Okay, we are at Article 13. To transact any other business that may legally come before the meeting. I just want to put in a plug in to say thanks very, very much to Eric Pryor for his 6 years of service as Commissioner on the Fire Commission's Board. I think that's worthy of a round. The moderator recognizes Kevin.
Question relative to the article that put $100,000 in to the Land and Building Fund and named the commissioner's agents to expend. I believe reading the warrants from last year, I'm not reading it that we made you agents to expend. My amendment took you agents to expend out. It's right here in print.
But I'm sorry. This is some area.
We were given errant information, and the vote was taken on that. There was an amendment last year that passed to remove, but to not make the commissioner's agents to expend.
So what do we do?
We make our votes on
Thank you, Kevin. Gotcha.
So, we have the internet, and the internet, I believe, has the meeting minutes from the previous annual meeting, because they went to DRA. So, anybody got Wi-Fi? Isn't it on our website? Okay. And to follow up on that, when I ask a question to whether it's the 5 commissioners or the budget committee or the chief, and we get an answer, I'm trying to trust the information and integrity is valid, accurate, and time relevant statement. No response, I'm sure, will come.
Thank you, Gretchen. So, further business under Article 13.
Just gotta ask.
Did we screw ourselves here?
Mark Heber, Northfield. Question, did we move to protect our vote for said article? We did.
Which article was it?
7.
Article 7 passed as read.
But did we move to protect?
Did we move to protect Article 7? Yes, we did.
So what happens when we were given misinformation?
Okay, so I'm sorry. Moving to protected vote, it's actually, what it means is a reference to RSA 40:10, which restricts reconsideration of the vote. So at any time during the meeting, if that statute has not been referenced and a vote taken by the Assembly to protect the vote, at any time during the meeting, that article could be reconsidered by the Assembly. If it has been, if Article 40, sorry, RSA 40:10 has been acted upon, it restricts reconsideration at tonight's meeting. And you could call for a reconsideration of the vote on that article. It just has to happen at some time within 7 days of the meeting. And it has to be a special meeting to conduct that. I'm going to call on Scott. We haven't heard from Scott.
And we have a lawyer that we're spending money on. Does he have any knowledge on this?
Well, let's find out. Give that man a microphone. He's going to give you some water speaking.
If the question is the impact of the reconsideration vote, the moderator is correct. What you've done is you've forbidden yourselves, basically, from any reconsideration tonight, which is probably unlikely given the hour and where we are in the warrant. And that if it was going to be reconsidered, there'd have to be a separate meeting scheduled, warned, and voted upon at that time.
Gotcha.
I guess I have a question for the lawyer too. So if we make an amendment, we say we want this, and we do not want the commissioners, why isn't that valid? And the legislative body vote that and say, yeah, we don't want them, we don't want to give them the ability, and we remove the verbiage. Why isn't that valid? Why were we told it wasn't valid? Why is it? Do you know what I'm saying? Okay, the last part of the warrant article says we give the fire commissioners the ability to expend this money. The amendment took that verbiage out, and we were told that we couldn't do that. Why is that? If you're going to speak to legalese.
We were told it was already in there, but if they lied, they didn't.
To be honest with you, I'm not certain that I actually understand your question fully, but I'll give it a try.
Okay.
You have certain statutory authority which the commissioners are vested with and the trustees of trust funds are also vested with, that operate how funds from these various funds can be taken out. This body can vote a number of different things, but it can't vote to change the legislative scheme that's been set out for the withdrawal of those funds. Consequently, regardless of a vote here, the statutory scheme will still stay in place. There's a number of instances around the state where bodies like this take votes and they're considered advisory. The legislative body and the commissioners would do well to heed that, but the ultimate authority is the state statutes as written in the RSAs.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks, Gretchen. Janice, please.
Really, the next question is only this. Because of the statute, how many days do you need to notify of a follow-up meeting to deal with the question because there was erroneous information about how the article was voted last year, how it was amended, how it was voted on, because the information given at this meeting was incorrect. The vote as it was taken was incorrect, and the people that were here were voting on something that was not accurate. And you have to give people the ability to vote on the right information. That's it.
Okay.
And that's plain and simple. And I think that you have to give people who have left the ability to vote properly. And you have to properly notice, and that's the whole purpose when you restrict reconsideration, which is exactly what happened, which is perfectly fine. You have to notice it again. You have to say why you're noticing it again. Put it in the paper, as you do, and have a meeting again. And the statute lists a certain number of days that you're allowed to do it. And that's how it's all written out. So it's all there. It's in the statute.
Okay.
And let's just do it. Get it done. And Kevin's right. And he knew that's why he took the time to do it. And he's got the right. He wrote the amendment last year. He knew he had done it. He just goes through that time. So let's just get it done. Let's figure it out. We can't do it tonight, but let's get it done. 7 days or whatever it is.
Thank you, Janice. Dennis, please.
Yes. So do we have a warrant in the past that named, was it last year, that named the commissioners, or said put them, whatever we're talking about, to make them, they could execute the trust fund?
Mr. Moderator, can I respond?
Yes, please, Tim. Thanks.
Yeah, Kevin is correct. And when you look at the last year, there was several amendments made to that article. The first one didn't pass, but the second one did. And it appears, based on what I just read, that that verbiage was not included in the amendment. The amendment was specifically to take that verbiage out.
Right, so we do not have a warrant article that was passed in the past years that gave the commissioners such right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Deb?
I appreciate Janice Kate wanting to do the additional meeting. I have another solution. I don't want to go through the expense of another meeting. I'm going to look to the sitting commissioners, being Paul Ogier, Tim Sattler, and the incoming commissioner, Jason Wright, to stand and say they will not spend that money in the coming year. It was a mistake. I'm going to call it an honest mistake. There's an opportunity for three gentlemen to stand up and do the right thing, acknowledge the mistake, and say, you know what? We won't spend that money. Would the three of you gentlemen do that?
Thank you, Kevin. That sounds like a reasonable solution. Jason?
That was actually my personal commitment to you about 15, 20 minutes ago before we went down this rabbit hole. I mean, I'm not sworn in yet, but I get that this fund has been around a while. I mean, how long? I mean, long time, right? Probably close to 20 years. And some years we've put in, some years we haven't. I don't see why we would need to spend money without a project in mind. So, my personal opinion, I don't see that there's anything on the table to have to do anything. And if there is, if we have to get some, we would look to the operating budget, because we do have lines in the operating budget for engineering at times. We build money into those lines when we see we're going to do something from an engineering or design perspective. So if we really needed to do something for some testing, it's not huge money. I personally would look to the operating budget to see if we can squeeze a little. Granted, we have less than we planned on, but that's just me.
Thank you, Jason. All right. We are still transacting other business that may legally come before the meeting. Gretchen.
I respectfully ask that the meeting minutes, we ensure that the verbiage is that the fire commissioners, both Tim Sattler, Paul Ogier, and the incoming Jason Wright, because it wasn't really plowed back here. I saw you nodding. Can we just make sure that that's in the meeting minutes, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Gretchen. Yes.
I just have other business now. Off that subject, I don't believe I actually have to file or have a written amendment for this, but at this point I would like to recommend to the commissioners to consider removing the clause that we have when we're hiring chiefs, that the chief must live within the district limits. I'd like you guys to consider removing that for the future, just future planning.
Thank you.
Cultivate from within.
Tim.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. I'll accept that motion. Is there a second?
Good idea.
Second by Jerry. All right. Discussion on the motion? Those in favor of adjourning, please signify so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay? As have it, we are adjourned. Here comes the meeting.